Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. It has been a minute since we have done a scene card. So here I have, I think it's Bunnies in the Garden and their No Fuss masks. I also pulled out the Happy Sayings die and stamp, and then this is the rainbow array of rainbows die, something like that. And then what's the other one? The Cloud and Grass Edger. So Denise from Whimsy Stamps very kindly, when I put in my last order, included these in my package. And this is so they have the No Fuss masks, which you guys already know I'm a big fan of. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But they have actual like full sheets, and that is what she sent me here. So you can die cut this, you can cut it with scissors, you can, do lots of different things with it. And so I wanted to create a scene. I have the No Fuss masks for my little bunnies, but I wanted to use it to kind of mask off my scenes. Now, I typically use Eclipse masking tape, but Eclipse masking tape does not have a backer, which means it's terribly challenging to die cut. So I kind of wanted to mess around with this and see if maybe this would be another option. And spoiler alert, it works pretty well. So here what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out what my game plan is going to be for how many characters I'm going to be able to fit in my scene. And so my original kind of plan was to do the bunny that was laying flat kind of in this grassy area up front, and then maybe the other two friends on top of a hill. But then the scale would be off. So what I ended up doing was erasing that original idea. I can always go back to it, of course. But what I ended up doing was just doing two hills. So one hill is going to be in the foreground, and this is what my characters are going to be on, and then the second hill is going to be in the background, and it's just going to kind of set the stage for behind. The other thing that I knew that I wanted to include in this little scene was I wanted to do like a rainbow in the sky. And I'm going to be doing all of this with my alcohol markers. I'm going to be using Copics, but you can use whatever you have. And so they're going to be it's a very spring card. And I realize we're into May, and we are kind of barreling towards summer, which I'm here for, honestly. I do love the nicer weather, but I did want to do kind of more of like a little spring-y scene. So here I'm just cutting it apart. I do want all of the parts, like you can see here, I'm stacking them all so I can figure out where exactly I need to stamp my characters. And I chose one little bunny that was holding a flower, and I chose the other little bunny that had the hat on, which is totally adorable. And then I laid out my masks so that I could see where I needed to position them. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp these down in some black ink that is safe for alcohol markers. In this case, I am using the Hero Arts Intense Black ink. And because I already have the No Fuss masks for these, I'm going to be really honest with you guys, and I know it's not going to be the same for everybody because maybe not everybody is interested in doing one layer scenes. But when I go shopping at Whimsy, if there's fussy masks available, I buy them. There's 4 sheets, and I know I can reuse them. So pretty much, I would be surprised if I had to ever buy another fussy or no fuss masks, because they're just really well made. And I know that like when I was first testing them out, I really put them through the ringer with the 3 cards, and I used each stencil 3 times. So yes. Anyway, so these are the ones I am peeling off for here. I am putting those in place. These are already cut to the same shape as the stamps. So it basically just takes that fussy cutting masking portion of it out. And then I am doing a true 1 layer scene here. So I'm going to be doing all of my coloring and scene building just flat. So yeah, so once I have those down, then I know that I can go ahead and put my other layers into position and start doing, I think my original intention was to do some ink blending. I can't remember if I actually did or not, because I really made this card quite a while ago, and I had intended to share it, but then you guys, if you've been following along with my life, it kind of, things took a turn. So I was planning on sharing this a little bit sooner than I actually am. So here I am just peeling away that backing piece, and then I will set that aside. And when I'm done with this, I just restuck it right on that backer sheet. And I didn't have any issues then just tucking it back into the packaging for the full no fuss masking sheets. I did do some ink blending. Okay, so now I have my masks in place for the green hills, and here I'm just putting in some salty ocean just to create some blue sky. I know that I'm going to add in that rainbow, but here you can see it creates that horizon line. That top one creates that horizon line. And then this is, it was a little bit challenging to get it back onto the backer while it was laying down, because it does kind of curl up. But once I held it in my hand, it was a lot easier. And then for this one, I'm just kind of marking where that hill needs to go, because normally I would be a little bit more heavy-handed with my ink blending, but I'm really just going to use the extra ink that's on my ink blender just to kind of mark it, because I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to build up that whole background with my markers. So I really just want to set that line for the top of the front hill. And then in order to do that, I did put the one that was on the sky as well. And then for this one, I'll put this hill then back in place. I just peeled it right off the backer again, put that right back into place, and then I will be able to peel off the bottom one. These did stick fairly well. Normally, I have a lot of trouble with my masking sheets sticking when I've just put down my distress ink because of the moisture. So you could see I did kind of have to pat it down a little extra into place, but I wasn't chasing it all over, which I appreciate. So now we just have like the barest of guidelines set up here for what it's going to look like. And once again, I am going to save these masks to reuse, so I'm just going to stick them right back onto their sheet, and then we will get into the building of the background. You could do this in so many different ways, but I tried to keep mine relatively simple. I knew that I wanted to have like a little pathway that my little characters were maybe walking up onto, and because I'm scared, that's the truth. Like, you guys know, like, darker colors are scary. So when I'm doing something like this and I'm just freehanding it and I'm not 100% confident in how it's going to come out, I start with my lightest colors. And there's no shame in that. If you're trying something new and you're not 100% confident in how it's going to come out, then just use lighter colors, because you can always cover it up. I promise you can always cover it up. So here for the rainbow, I did choose some paler colors. I wanted it to be kind of faint in the background, and I didn't do anything fancy as far as like shape. I just made it diagonal across the background, so that it adds a little something, like maybe there was a little rainstorm that just kind of swept through and watered all of the plants, and it's left behind a rainbow in its wake. I did choose lighter colors for that reason, and I did go over them twice. I went over them a second time, not just to make the colors a little bit bolder, because again, I went with lighter colors because I'm scared, but also to help that blend, because alcohol markers blend in the fibers of the paper. So if you don't have enough moisture down, they aren't going to blend well. So once I had that down, I did not go over the purple again because it is already quite bold. I decided that I was going to put like a little cluster of trees, maybe the entrance to a forest, kind of on the right-hand side. And again, there is that lighter color for not only the tree trunks, but also for the foliage, because I am apprehensive, and that's okay. So if you're also doing, these things for the first time, then give yourself grace. Don't be so hard on yourself. Start with the lighter colors and then build up to those darker colors as you get more comfortable with the scene as it comes together. So that way you can still get the depth and dimension that you want, but it isn't quite as frightening. So I did like little tulip shapes, which is really just like a little U with kind of like some flicks of color up. And again, I started with my lightest color. And now I'm going to start actually getting into doing some shading. And I'm going to start with my grass. So the reason I'm starting with my grass is because this is what is setting the horizon for each level of scenery. So going in with the lightest color and just following along those lines that we created, those barely there guidelines that we created with our ink blending, that's what I'm filling in. And then that's going to make me a lot more comfortable with my darker colors, because I know that I'm going to create some grasses and some stems and things like that. And that's something that I've done on a lot of other cards before. So I'm very much comfortable with that aspect. So that's where I'm going to start, because, we're all one of the first cards that I ever did. And I probably have told you guys the story before. One of the first cards that I ever did that I won a challenge with, because that's really how when I was card making, I enjoyed the process so much, but I didn't have as many recipients as cards that I wanted to make, because I had a very stressful job and I liked being able to come home and de-stress with coloring. And this is like back in the day before I really even knew what my style was. I just knew that I liked the coloring aspect. This was before I even used alcohol markers. Like, this was really, really early in my card making career. And there was this challenge, and they had like a guest judge, and that guest judge was Kathy Rakusin, who's kind of, I don't think she's a grandma now, and I know she's taking care of her grandbaby, so I don't necessarily know that she's creating as much as she was before, but she's amazing. And she's amazing now. She was amazing back then. Nothing's changed. But she really had this ability to, do the dimension and do the shading and bring, different things to life. And I just loved her work. So, I was doing the challenge, and I cannot remember what the challenge was. Like, I don't know what the theme was, but, I made a card for my nephew, and his first birthday theme was, I think it was cowboys and Indians, honestly. And so I went online and I found a stamp set. I don't even think this company is in business anymore, but anyway, that was like the cowboys and the Indians. And I created this whole scene, this flat scene, stamping and masking and, doing all the coloring, but I did all of the coloring with my distressings, because I was not comfortable using my alcohol markers. And at the time, I didn't even own any Copics. I started way back in the day with the Marvi Yakurta kind of off brand. They weren't even refillable. But I loved, this is so totally random, I loved the black marker because it smelled like almond extract. I don't know what they did to make the marker smell like that, but it was amazing. But anyway, so that was where I started, and that was one of the first challenges that I ever won. And another card that I made, and you have to remember, like, I wasn't winning a lot, just so we're clear. Like, this was not a, let's go back to the card. So here we've kind of really put in the tulips and the grasses, and I started putting in the pathway. That's what I'm doing here with the brown. And I'm doing it kind of vertically because I wanted the ground to look like it was coming up and over the hill. I'm going to change this later. It does not look right. With the rest of the scene and like adding the shadows underneath my little bunnies, it doesn't look correct. So I am going to change it because even now I'm still learning, still trying things, and when they don't necessarily look the way that I want them to, I'm still adjusting. So make sure you're giving yourself that grace because none of us are making perfection, okay? We're just making things that fill our hearts with joy and hopefully fill our recipients' hearts with joy if you're a person who mails your cards, which I am not. Because I just don't. I know it's terrible. So the other thing that we're talking about in building a scene is like scale and depth perception. So the closer that this little pathway gets to us, the larger it's going to be. The further away it is, the smaller it will look. And that is why the pathway is so tiny on the horizon and it gets wider as it comes in closer. And then obviously as it comes up over the hill, it's much wider indeed. But that's just to give it the look of being so far away. For the tree trunks, I really am just doing little lines because I'm going to start to kind of pepper in these little leaf shapes. This feels like it should have more, I don't know, more direction, but really I'm just turning my marker to the side and tapping it down to create these little leaf shapes. I would caution you against making it too solid because that doesn't look natural. You should still see some of the colors in between of the sky because you would have that filtering through, especially around the edges. But anyway, so one of the other cards that I made that actually won a challenge was another 1-layer card. I just stamped the image down and then it was on a craft card base, which is so funny because I very rarely use craft. But I stamped it on a white piece of paper. I colored it. It was like a pear. I colored it with some distress inks, and then I fussy cut it out, and then I glued it on top of the craft, and there was like some witty sentiment or something. Was it? It wasn't a pear. It was a lime. It was a lime and it was a hero art set. But anyway, so my love of 1-layer cards runs deep and I don't think I'll ever not make them. Even with all of the dyes and everything else on the market, which I do love for the different things that you can do with them. But I don't know that I will ever love them as much as I love stamps and just creating. Like this was a white piece of paper when we started. And there's just something so magical about that. Kind of like, you know, how you're watching like metallic embossing powder melt, and it's always like a little bit of fun waiting for it to melt and become shiny. That is how I feel still about 1-layer cards. So I'm going in and I'm doing the same. I'm using the same colors that we used for the grasses up top, but obviously I'm making sure to leave that edge of the top, the most forward hill with the lightest. And I'm not going to put in as much detail into this background because remember, it's way off in the distance. So in the grasses up front, we see lots of leaves and like the different grass blades. As we get further away, you know, it's just going to look like green. It's not going to have all that texture that you'll be able to see. So I am still creating the dimension with the, you know, different colors, but it's definitely going to be a smoother application. Here I am doing a little bit of darker color more towards the trees, but as I'm coming in with these other colors and going over top of that, it will start to smooth out, because like I said, it's further away, and so we're just not going to see as much color variation. It's kind of going to be, what is that? Fields of Gold. Was that a Sting song? I think it was. But anyway, I that is what I'm trying to create. More detail up front, softer detail, kind of a little bit fuzzier, in the background, to really help kind of depict that scale, that further view. So this part over here, like along the horizon, I wanted to give the feel that like it continued on past that hill. And so in order to do that, I just picked some slightly darker greens. The color of the green doesn't matter, but I'm doing just kind of like little shrubs, or it could maybe be seen as tops of other trees that are further behind that, to help anchor that horizon. And then I'm going in with my lighter color just to kind of clean up any of the edges. But that way it looks like our scene still continues. Like over that next hill, there's a whole other cast of characters kind of situation. So here is where I'm like, I don't love this pathway. I think it needs to, like, the texture needs to be added horizontally instead of vertically. And so I'm just going to go in with those darker colors and do my best to kind of make that happen. And to me, this looks much more natural, especially since I am still adding like the shadows and stuff underneath my characters. It makes more sense for that pathway to be left to right instead of up and down. And then, doing those little dots that are maybe, little clumps of dirt or little rocks or, things like that, just to give it a little bit more texture that we're not going to see in the hill that's really far away. So, and then like from here, like our scene is pretty much put together. I really am just going to then concentrate on coloring my little bunnies, who I think are so stinking cute. I did buy some other ones. What did I buy? I bought some bunnies that had like carrots and stuff, and my intent was to use them around Easter, but you guys know how my Easter went with my mom. So that wasn't a thing that happened. I'll save them for next year. I did go in with a colorless blender because sometimes when we're doing all of that coloring around our characters, sometimes it can seep into our characters, the color. So I just go in and clean that up with a colorless blender if I need to. Sometimes I'm using colors that are dark enough that you're not going to see it, and so I don't get overly worried about it. But this little bunny is going to be a lightish gray. Please bear with me as we figure out the autofocus. I know we've talked about it before, but I am trying to figure out a way to make that work. So, I really can't believe that we're already into May. This is so wild to me, with everything going on with my mom being sick. My wonderful husband has super stepped up to take care of a lot of the things with the kids that normally I do. And our son's birthday is in May as well. And obviously we want him to be able to celebrate that. So normally we do like a family party, and, because we have a pool, and last year we bought a pool heater, and we were hoping to be able to do like a kind of pool party for him this year. With everything going on, like, that's not reasonable for us. So last year he had asked about having a party at the trampoline park, which, real talk, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. They make me a little nervous. But I know that I'm a nervous person anyway. Like, I have a lot of anxiety, so I try to keep that in check. So that is what we have decided to do. So that way he still gets to do something that he wants for his birthday. And, we're not having to, it's not weird for him, and then on his actual birthday, if we are able, then we'll go to my parents and he'll be able to have dinner and stuff with my mom. So that is what we are hoping for. I know a lot of you guys, have messaged, emailed, sent cards, and I'm so very grateful for that. Thank you very much for thinking of us and for your prayers and your thoughts. I'm very touched, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you. But we're just trying to do the best we can with the time that we have left. So we have his birthday coming up, and then we're going to be heading into summer. We're going to be he's only just got a couple of weeks of school left. I can't believe how fast it is going. I feel like he just started school. But I am super grateful to be back in nicer weather. It is a little cool today, and yesterday was as well. It was like in the 50s. But it's been sunny and not raining. And after we had like a week of straight rain, I'm not going to complain if it is a little cooler out, but it is sunny. Because you guys know we have dogs. We have 2 dogs. And when it is rainy like that, oh, it's the stuff nightmares are made out of. Because if you can even convince them to go out into the rain with our little, puppy princesses, they do not want to go out into the rain. If you can even get them to go out there, then the mud under their bellies, on their paws, in their nails, ugh. I don't love spring exactly for that reason. So yeah, it's been, my in-laws have very generously stepped up and helped, take care of, our children, mostly because I cannot put Jelly Bean in daycare and then let her see my mom. So we have been having to do kind of a modified schedule. So this weekend tonight I am hoping to take the kids over to see my mom as long as she's having a good night. Let's go back to the card for a second. So one of the things that I do like to do when it comes to coloring is I do like adding that little bit of texture. And so here, in order to give her hat the appearance of being like a woven kind of sun hat, I did a little bit of cross hatching with one of the lighter colors. You could also do this kind of same pattern if you're doing jeans. You could do that kind of same pattern, but these are just little things that you can add that will help really bring your scene to life. Another way that you can do that is with a white gel pen, or here, like we've done the tone on tone, you can bring in a white gel pen and draw a pattern, which I will be doing that on this card as well. But these are, just these little things are things that you can do that will really just kind of elevate your scene and help your characters kind of be the star of the show, because they're going to have the most detail. Here, like her little dress had pockets. Like, isn't that the best though? As a woman, like when somebody's like, "Oh, I love your dress," don't you immediately, like, if it has pockets, say it has pockets? I do, because I'm excited about it. In fact, Mom, the other day, I bought her some nightgowns and they have pockets, and she was trying to keep her toothpick. And I was like, "Mama, you can't put the toothpick in your pocket because then you might roll over on it." And she was like, "Well, why did you give me pockets if I can't put anything in it?" And she has a valid point. But anyway, so she had the little pockets. So I just added maybe 1 or 2 other triangles at the bottom of the dress just to give it a little bit more shape. As far as the sentiment goes, I pulled out all those other ones and I ended up using one from the actual set that says, if friends were flowers, I would pick you. And I think it fit perfectly. I just stamped it down flat. I can't tell you, like, the Misty's total game changer for one layer card makers, because I can't tell you how many cards I've either ruined or been too scared to stamp my sentiment, because I was worried that it would ruin the card, or maybe I didn't leave enough space for it. So here, several of you guys have asked me over the years, like, why I no longer outline my cards. And it's because the inks have changed and the stamp positioners have changed. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of stamp it multiple times. But in order to really make my characters the forefront, sometimes I still go in and outline them so that black is really bold and it brings them to the forefront. Here is that white gel pen that I was telling you about. I'm going to use it to add some highlights, within my scene, to my little bunny's eyes. But then I'm also going to use it to draw this little polka dot pattern on this bunny's dress, because again, that's just an added detail that's totally going to elevate it. And then you guys know, like, I love the shimmer and the shine. That's something else that you can do as well. So anyway, I was saying my in-laws have, taken care of the kids for us, and I'm very grateful for all of the help and the thoughts and the prayers, and thank you. I hope that this was helpful to you if you are on a scene building journey. Please check out those no fuss sheets because they worked really well. Thank you guys so much. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.